All right. Hello, everybody. Let me check in. Yes, look at that. Listen to that beautiful no static, which I think I've handled this week. So very happy for that. Live
Yes.
from Denver. It is Friday night. Welcome to Critical Conversations, the show where you get to talk to us being me, Chris Shelton, and my beautiful wife, Melissa.
Hello.
We are very happy to join you. Today is the 15th of April in the year of our Lord, 2022. AD 72 would be the Dianetics year,
Wow.
which Hubbard would introduce his lectures with from time to time. Not every time, but from time to time, AD was used as a after Dianetics year for Scientology.
My God.
So we are in the year of 72 AD in that world. Yes. Meh, 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 meh. I don't know where we are in the year of the Mayan calendar or
I have no idea.
in the year of our Lord Xenu.
Yeah.
I wonder on the Xenu calendar. We're at 76
89 billion.
couple thousand, yeah. So maybe
4 trillion.
From that incident dated forward, we're at 76 million years or some nonsense like that. Anyway, enough of this nonsense and stuff and silliness. We are very serious people engaged in very serious work here, and we want nothing but seriousness all around.
Sure.
Yeah, right? Okay, anyway. Hey, everybody. What a week. Actually, this was actually a pretty productive and pretty fun week for me, and I think for us,
Yeah.
getting more settled in.
We're unpacking more and setting more up, so it's feeling more like a home.
Exactly. In fact, this week was the first time when I actually stopped, looked around, and felt, oh, yeah, this is becoming like my place, our place. Like this is becoming our space, not just a space we are living in. And so anyway, it was kind of fun to experience that. What was even more fun to experience was finally getting my grade.
Yeah.
On my exam. I get to brag right now before we get into anything further. I like cults and our choices and the stuff I'm going to talk about there. Yeah. Do you think it's harder for second gens to leave cults or easier? I don't think that adjudication could be made based on whether the person is a first or second gen. I think in general terms, I would say it's harder for second gens. But I think it's going to be so independent to the person because some people go all in hard as first gen, as like original members. I mean, they can go fanatical 0 to 100, and then their head is just in a place where the concept of getting them out or of them leaving is just, forget it. It's almost impossible to even contemplate it. Same thing could be said for some second gens as well. And then, all the way down the spectrum. So I don't know. My feeling is if I have to answer the question, I would say that it's probably harder for second gens because they were literally raised with this worldview. And being a second gen, comparing my experiences to first gens, I would say that's the case of being raised with something so that you never had any other view of reality than that. I'd say that in general terms, it's harder to break out of that. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We don't even have a choice, right? Okay. Yes. So on my grade, yes. Sorry about that. I got totally distracted by Henny's question. Okay. So Monday, the grades were released, and so now I want to, before I give you guys the number, I want to preface it with this was the best assignment I did. I got the best. I did the best on this one out of the entire school year. I was most proud of this. This is work that I literally am standing on and saying, yes, this is work I'm proud of. The thesis that I wrote, the research that I did, And my professor apparently thought so too. His review of it, and then we have the way the system works is you turn your thesis in, and two or three, I think it's three different people review it. You have your primary reviewer, who in this case was my professor, who was also my advisor. That was Rod. Then there's another person, I don't know who that was. I think it was the person who was running the research methods program, but I'm not 100% on that. He also read it over, gave commentary and feedback on it. And then a third person will look at both of those. And that third person, somebody outside of that program, so that there's no question that there's objectivity and that the critiques make sense and that kind of thing. So that was how it was graded. And the system on which it's graded is not an ABC system like in America. The UK system's slightly different in the post-grad, or in the grad school rather, world. You don't have ABC. You have good. You have a percentage area where 60. I don't remember this exactly, but I think it goes good, very good, excellent, and outstanding is the best you can get. So outstanding is 100 to 91, 90 to, what is that, 80, 81 to 90, something like that. I got excellent. That's what I got. I got an 80. So, so I got excellent. So, so I was in the second top tier, in terms of levels. I guess you could say that if you translated it over to an English system or an American system, I guess it was a great big B plus or something. As far as that goes, it wasn't in the top tier. But top tier for this level, for a master's level, is publication quality material. And I didn't obviously write my thesis at that level. But pretty good. Very, very happy. Most important thing that I'm going to brag about, and then I feel I get to, because you guys are genuinely curious and want to hear this, is that, because I've been telling everybody who would want to know, and it's actually not a whole lot of people, right? In my personal life, but certainly some people were very, very keen and happy about it. My wife,
I'm
of
very
course,
proud of you.
not her. I'm not talking about her. Friends, stuff like that. They're always like, "Oh, that's very nice, Chris. You and your culty stuff." Okay, it's not quite. I don't quite have that same. When you're friends with people, it's different. So anyway, but my mom was very, very happy, and and some of my friends were. Anyway, yeah, so then from that paper will come publications and material and stuff I'll be putting out there. So very, very fun. Very, very happy about that. Thank you very much, you guys, for your very nice comments here. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of work. It was, the thing I wanted to tell you is that my professor actually did write in the comments. It wasn't just something he said to me. He put in the formal review of it that he really did feel that the research that I had done was groundbreaking research on the subject of cults, and that it could serve to really help change the paradigm or the tone of the conversation about destructive cults and how we study them and how we approach them, and that this form of analysis and this way of breaking down Hubbard's words, which is what I did, that approach is something that is kind of not been done particularly before with cultic work. There's been a lot of study done. Don't get me wrong. It's not like there's no literature on the subject of cults.
Right. There's
tons. Unfortunately, a great deal of it is kind of what I'm branding as apologetics. It's stuff that explains, justifies, rationalizes, and excuses destructive cult behavior. All right, and we talk about this under these new religious movement guys, and anyway, you guys are probably tired of hearing about that, but that's where most of the literature exists. And so what I'm doing is bringing a different approach and I hope other people are doing the same thing who are coming through this program. By the way, I'm not trying to say I'm some like amazing stellar person and nobody else could ever. Anybody can do this. This is not like rocket science, but It was just an original new way of approaching cultic analysis. Rather than reading cult propaganda and regurgitating it and saying, this is what they do, we actually take Hubbard's words and we actually break them down and show how he created a framework of control, of coercive control. And auditing, Scientology auditing, is that. There's nothing good going on for people in those experiences. And I realize that there's a lot of people who had a lot of wins and had a lot of gains and all of that. Well, you can have a lot of gains, and as I've made the point before, you can have gains eating Twinkies. Doesn't mean they're good for you. Right? You can feel great after you have certain things that are really bad for you. So just because you feel good or feel blown away or had some amazing spiritual experience doesn't really, at the end of the day, mean a whole lot when it comes down to your mental health and your ability to get along in life and to be bigger and better and more at cause over things. You don't accomplish that by sitting in a room hallucinating past life memories and regurgitating them to people. That's not how you get along better in life. And that's unfortunately where Scientologists' heads are at. So I'm very happy to bring a different approach to this and hopefully through that kind of work challenge the what's been extant in the literature since the 1970s and 80s, which has been a lot of very pro-cult stuff. And when I say pro-cult, by the way, just to give you guys an idea on this, is, you should not call me Master Chris. Debbie. Anyway, I get easily distracted by the comments there. But anyway, when I say that this stuff is pro-cult, I mean they actually use it in courts of law, in testimonial, in academic write-ups and books published by Oxford University Press, talking about the benefits and goodness of Scientology, Mormons, Moonies, etc. And you guys have heard the stories. You know how bad these groups can be and how bad they can get. So it's pretty bad. Okay. Let's see here. Yes, Scientology does try to weasel their way into academia, Nick. Yes, they do. Yeah, in fact, that's one of the reasons why I got interested in it in the first place is there's a great many academics who have written pro-Scientology pieces and articles for books, for magazines, journals, and for courts of law. And they provide expert testimony that is recognized in a court of law as expert testimony on the subject of new religious movements. That's how these guys have gotten into the court system, and they've convinced the courts that their field is legit and that studying new religious movements, which is a legit field actually, includes being apologists for them and explaining them so that juries understand that when kids are being abused and people are being malnourished and sleep deprived and food deprived and overworked and trafficked, that's all just normal behavior for new religions, and we should just sort of look at that and see that that's
well, maybe
the case.
You should start doing expert testimony.
It's a thing.
You could.
No,
you have the credentials now.
It's a thing. It's a thing. It's something yeah. Okay. None of this Master Shelton. You guys are guys. Okay. Okay. So, what I am doing right now, and so the update on the study, by the way, just to finish that off, is that here's the funny coincidence: is May 9th is the date that the board meets, I'm told, at Salford University to finalize and approve and stamp and seal my certification on this. And that's when it's a done deal and I'm completed officially and I get to, be Chris Shelton, MSc, Master of, degree in Psychology of Coercive Control. May 9th is also the anniversary of the publication of Dianetics, the Modern Science of Mental Health.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And was an event that that was not just a day, it was an event. We actually held an event in Scientology, held one, to commemorate that date in history. And May 9th was a very important historical date in Scientology. So I thought it was kind of hilarious. Master at Large. Okay, now that one I might do. I might do that, Katie. Yeah, MSc, it's Master of Science. It's a science degree of psychology in the UK system. That's not fine arts or social sciences or sciences. So it's a Master of Science degree in the psychology of coercive control. Okay, so there we go. I love these comments. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and talk about your quote?
Okay.
Let her get the mic for a bit.
Yeah. So this quote is about anger, and it's from Aristotle. Anybody can become angry. That is easy. But to be angry with the right person and to the right degree and at the right time and for the right purpose and in the right way, that is not within everybody's power and is not easy.
That's an interesting quote.
Because I like it because, you know, like one thing my therapist says is like anger isn't always bad. Sometimes it's telling you something. Mm-hmm. It's how you express it that can be bad. It's when you express it, who you're expressing it to, for what reason, you know, like, because anger is a message to you. It's like, I feel like something bad is happening to me, you know, so. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting. This is one where I know that I am not challenging.
Yeah.
I'm saying, and what that quote brought up to me actually was something I haven't thought about in a while, which was how we would administer anger or what I'll call purposeful anger in the Sea Org. Because you would have people who it was not in their temperament or part of their character or nature to be assholes or to come down on people harshly or to, you know, drill into their face when they screwed up so that they don't screw up again, right? The idea with Sea Org discipline and with the anger and the what we would call getting your face ripped or getting a severe reality adjustment, these were the expressions we would use for this kind of behavior. Well, often when you weren't at the receiving end, when you were at the other end of it, where you knew the person, you had a junior who needs to be disciplined, right? The guy screwed up, or his stats are down, or people are pissed at him, and you're getting shit for it, and so you got to give this guy the what for, so he gets it. He snaps too. So I would watch people, and I would have to do this from time to time as well. Assume this kind of, okay, here we go, right? And they'd kind of have to gear up for it. And they'd call the person into their office, you know, and depending on who the person was, depended on how much rage they could muster up, you know, and sometimes it was some table pounding and it was some rare, and sometimes it was significantly worse if the person felt like they needed to really go full rage monster and turn into, you know, go Hulk mode. And I saw, you know, lots of different expressions of that from different people trying to live up to an expectation of what they thought L. Ron Hubbard wanted or David Miscavige wanted in them as Sea Org executives. And it's an interesting thing because this was something that actually came up and is something that's been on my mind watching Severance. I wanted to tell you guys we've been watching Severance.
Yeah, that's been interesting.
Right? It has been. We're 3 shows in now?
Yeah, 3 or 4. Yeah, 3 maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, what I'm about to say and where I'm going with this is actually right on the point of the topic of the show. Because here we're talking about choices people make in regards to their cult activity and their membership and their cult identity. Right? There are choices you make along the way. And I wasn't going to lead with this, but since this came up in the quote, this anger thing, you could say in a way, in a twisted kind of way, this kind of Sea Org anger management, you know, where you assume it like it's a role. It's an act you're going to put on because you have to do this to somebody because this is what you know they need. You know this because L. Ron Hubbard tells you this, right? Or you know this because you've received this treatment from your seniors and you're expected to model this behavior. This is supposed to be good executive behavior that you're about to rip into this guy and tear his face off because he screwed up on something, or because he's just in a bad way, or because people are pissed at him for some reason. I mean, it really comes down to basically those kind of things. And I thought watching Severance, and I'm going to do a whole video review on Severance. It's an amazingly good show so far. I am really impressed with it. I think we're 3 or 4. Yeah. 3. I think we're 3 episodes in. Yeah, I think there's 8. So this is really good culty corporate stuff. There's corporate world stuff in this. There's culty stuff in this. It's so far, I'm really, really impressed with the writing. And what I'll bring up now is an example of this, is when there's a situation, without getting into spoilers or the full context of the situation. There's a lead character who Adam Scott's character, who has this new junior, and he is now taken on the role of being the head of this little 4-man department that he runs. So he's now assuming this new leadership role, and she is being difficult. She is being the model difficult person to deal with. She's not cooperative. She's not going along with the program. And you see him make a choice. You see him do something because of pressure brought to bear on him, where she is, oh, hey, Couch, thank you for that super chat. She is bucking the system because the system is completely screwed and insane. And anybody who has in their right mind would buck this system. But he's been in the system for 2 years. To him, the system is working. To him, the system is a good thing. Or at least he has to keep telling himself that. And you see him struggle with that. But then he comes to a place where he now is responsible for her. And I didn't tell you about this because it just occurred to me today that this was a thing. But I was in exactly the same place when I was in Scientology in the Sea Org.
Right.
I mean, exactly the same place. There was a woman who was busted off her post. She was a course room supervisor. She had screwed up badly as far as we were concerned. And we needed to teach her a lesson, right? She needed to be made to see, the error of her ways. And I was assigned the task of doing that. And I sucked at it because I was so damn nice. And I just couldn't see my way clear to get, to scream and yell and shout at her. And I was running around trying to find the worst physical work I could assign to her, scrubbing floors and cleaning pots and doing this and that. And even that I couldn't dream up really, really horrible stuff. It was mop the floor. It was clean this bathroom, I didn't even do the clean it with a toothbrush thing. I was just clean the bathroom, And my person running me was telling me, you're being too nice. You are too goddamn nice. And like the choice Adam Scott makes in the show, in this episode, he turns. And I see you in the queue, by the way. We will pick you up. Sorry, I've had you on hold for a bit there. I just want to finish this story. He decides, like I had to decide, I can't keep being nice. I can't keep being myself. I can't keep being the person I really am. I have to turn on this anger. This is what this quote made me think of. I have to somehow be this very, very rough and tough and hard version of myself and really get her to see it, and I never did. She was cheerfully, happily doing all this work, and that's what was driving me nuts, is she was so cheerful about it.
She wasn't gonna let you get to her.
She wasn't being gotten to. She was having her own problems. She'd been removed from her job. Nobody was talking to her, and she was trying to deal with that as best she could by keeping a stiff upper lip and keeping cheerful. And I was trying to break her. I mean, it was awful. It was awful. And I was doing that because obviously I was in a culture and situation where everybody expected me to do that, but it doesn't excuse it. And that was the point where I had that choice that I had to make, and I made the wrong, bad choice there. And I just found that fascinating that it was reflected in the severance so perfectly in exactly the same way. And I was blown away by that because it could have been just lifted right out of my Sea Org experience. Doesn't put me in any kind of a good light at all because I was the asshole in that story. But it sure was interesting about how I had to be the asshole by making the choice to be. And that's something I'll highlight more later after we get through some of this other stuff. We have a caller here, so let's pick it up. Hello, you are on. I apologize for keeping you on hold for so long.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I am good. How are you? This is David, right?
Very good, very good. Yes. Just to say, 80 is a extremely high grade in the British system. It's verging on being able to be published in a journal.
Ooh. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for clarifying that for me.
So 60 is a merit, 50 is a pass, 70 is distinction, and 80 is you could almost publish this in an academic piece.
Awesome.
So
well, I was getting mid 60s on my earlier assignments, and then this one got me an 80. So
good. I got a 70 in my dissertation, and most of my others were mid 60s. So I came out with a merit grade by the end of my master's.
Nice.
Yeah. I think to address the title of today's stream, I think that in a country, in a world where cancer patients and dialysis patients are being turned away from hospitals in the biggest city in China, the idea of cults and our choices seems especially relevant.
Yeah, good point.
Every single one of the people that will not let these people out of their houses or not let them into the hospital or try to force them to show apps in their smartphone which could crash and there's nothing they can even do about that. These people are not robots. They have made a choice to deny somebody entry to a hospital, to deny somebody entry to a supermarket, and they can't say morally, oh, we're just following orders. And I think that to do with, regular destructive cults, I think there's the moral responsibility can never really go away.
Well, that's right. And that's actually that's part of the point I wanted to bring up today is that you get enough time and distance out of the cult and away from it and acclimate and recover and all of that. Yes. And you start realizing that there is a whole lot of personal responsibility for this as well, which comes across in the wrong place, in the wrong time, in the wrong context as victim blaming. And I want to be super clear that that's not at all the point that I think you're making, and certainly not the one I am. It's a matter of recognizing that we had choices along the way and we chose wrong. And that was something we did. That's part of the process, I think.
Yeah, and it's something that makes me really angry whenever we hear that guy who just recently tried to do a Trump made me do it defense to his involvement in January 6th. Right. No, Trump didn't make you do it. You chose to do it. Yeah. You chose, and every time you went to say even further down the rabbit hole, every choice that you made afterwards was a choice that you made. The person who wrote an article or made a conspiracy theory or posted on Telegram or addressed the January 6th rally did not force your body to move. You did.
Yep.
Exactly. And the reason that I bring this up is not to rub everybody's nose in our bad choices or anything, or try to victim blame. It's really the exact opposite. It's coming through the other side. I mean, first, it's very important that people realize that they were victimized. That's the first thing you got to get, right? Because unfortunately, in these situations, the person has been so overwhelmed and overloaded that they don't understand that they were victimized. So first there's that recognition, right? and then dealing with the aftermath of that and the repercussions of that. But then you can kind of come back around to, well, how did I end up in this in the first damn place? And and what did I have to do with that? And how could I? It's not with an eye on blame, shame, and regret. It's with an eye toward the future. It's an eye toward, how do I make good choices into the future? How do I learn from these choices that I made that landed me in so much trouble in the past? I think that's how I'm thinking about this and wanted to present it. What do you think?
I mean, I agree with that, and I think that a very hard thing about that is that you'd have to acknowledge that you made choices, and so much, even conversations within non-apologist spaces and places like even say this show where we recognize destructive cults as destructive cults and aren't trying to characterize them as new religious movements. So much discussion assumes a complete or very, very high lack of agency of a cult member. They become brainwashees in the dialogue, and all responsibility is stays with the person at the top and never filters down. And I think that's a major problem. We try to have these discussions.
Yep, exactly. I think you nailed it right there. Because we have to recognize the codependent nature of the relationship, right? Which I've been saying for years, but not highlighting particularly, right? Which is that the followers rely on the leader, need the leader, worship the leader, idealize the leader, right, etc. But the leader's nothing without the followers. It does, they both have to be there, The
leader is some idiot in a shed if there aren't people around them. And I think it reminds me of what your Scientology training video you made a while ago, that the person doing the training to be an auditor is simultaneously being both an abuser and being abused at the same time.
Yes, exactly. So it's not a matter of letting a person on the hook or off the hook or something like that. It's not really the point, It's about about looking to the future and recognizing how to avoid this mistake again,
Absolutely.
And I think on that note that that's also where the education where I want to take this conversation or this direction of what I'm doing with my channel is all in the direction of trying to empower people through education. I'm not trying to sensationalize this crap or harp over all the salacious details. I'm trying to shock people and scare people into seeing that this stuff exists and it's real. But only to the degree that then they choose to not become part of it,
Oh, yes. I think Scientology is both at the same time. Scientology is a good example for something like this, but also a bad example. It's a good example because there is so much material that's now all over the internet, and we can read it and we can back everything up, and everything you say can be traced back to something. So if somebody says, "Oh, that's not what it's really about," you can actually go and look it up for yourself. But it's also a bad example because all of that material is there and it's all the one way, and experiences will have a lot of similarities between each other's experiences because the group is so rigid. A lot of other groups are much less formalized, there's much less documentation, so using Scientology as a baseline is not always very good, but at the same time, it's very good to try to have these discussions because there's so much there that we can prove.
Well, exactly. And you're right. There is a double-edged coin aspect to or double-edged sword aspect to, having as much information as we have about Scientology. But I think the scales, are maybe weighted in favor of having all that knowledge. It's certainly allowed me to do the kind of work I did for my thesis, which would not be possible with the writings or lack of writings, rather, I should say, in other spiritual leaders, right? I got nothing on Jesus. I don't know what I can't do that work on on him. We got nothing.
Or certainly other groups like that group Love Has Won, where very little about what it actually believed, as opposed to screeds on YouTube, very little about what actually went on within the inner circle can be analysed because it wasn't written down.
There you go.
And I think, unfortunately, that's the template for most of these groups. Most of these groups are closer to an exclusively oral tradition than the painstakingly documented tradition that was Scientology.
You know, true enough. And we can say that if Hubbard did suffer from temporal lobe epilepsy, which we did a whole podcast on, and which I definitely believe he did,
yes.
that hypergraphia, you know, is part of that, right? Never, you know, so much writing and everything, you know.
Absolutely,
I think in the future we would see less of that, because I think that in the digital age, you know, you're going to need, you can document everything so quickly, just pull out your phone, right? So,
that's why a lot of these groups don't allow phones.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they'll benefit from the lack of being recorded or transcribed or whatever. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
And they'll benefit from the instantaneous ability to reach out one-to-one with any individual.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Oh, yeah.
I get that there's a lot of scams on Discord. Like if you're in certain large servers on Discord, there's people that will obviously message with scams about Bitcoin in particular quite often, or options trading. And I just send them a horror art that was produced by some virtual YouTuber, and that shuts them up. But we've got all these options traders working there looking to scam people. We almost certainly have cult recruiters looking to worm people in who discuss religion, for instance.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And it really hit me this week, harder than it has in quite a while, how this is never going to stop. As long as we are human beings, this is not going to stop. So,
don't know.
You know, so the idea, well, it's just kind of funny because when you come out of a cult, at least when I came out of a cult and talking to other people who did, you know, you want that justice, you want that payback, you want that scale balancing so bad that you kind of, you know, at least I tunnel visioned a lot on, okay, we need to rid the world of this. This needs to go away. This needs to be gone. Right?
Yes.
And then I, you know, and still thinking in sort of the Simple Simon solutions of Scientology in terms of the way it thinks about things, I thought, well, we can just get critical thinking going and really get that going in the schools, really get that going everywhere. I know there's groups doing this. I'll get on board that, push that really hard. We'll get this critical thinking going, and man, people are going to be different. And you keep studying. And you keep studying.
Yep. They're not.
The unfortunate end result that's very implicit in what you said there is that the end goal of this critical thinking will be everybody is still thinking the same. They're just now thinking what I want them to think.
Right.
They're not actually critical thinking. It reminds me of, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't watched it, the penultimate episode of Fate Zero, where a character finally got the chance to enact his best wish, which was to end, he was a military veteran, it was to end all war. And the spiritual entity at the heart of it said, okay, this is what we will do. We will kill everyone who wants to fight now. And then as people want to fight, we kill and kill and kill and kill and kill until there's nobody left wanting to fight. Because I cannot do what is impossible in the human mind. And be careful what you wish for. And obviously the character then rejected the gift, and for that he was cursed and he himself died, but it also stopped anybody else getting access to it.
Wow. Well, that's, you know, that there's your monkey's paw solution, right? There's the thing, you know, the thing you didn't think was going to happen, but it happened.
Yep.
But that's exactly right. It's really going down the wrong solution tangent or the wrong path, right? It's just not where the solution lies. It's not there. There is no world
No,
future
no.
where we are all good critical thinkers, where we're all, and thank God there's no
Yeah.
future where we're all on the same page.
Yeah, we're all good critical thinkers, but incidentally, we all think the same thing.
Right. Exactly. That's just not.
It's a contradiction. It's a contradiction.
Exactly.
If you, again, I know I bring it up occasionally because I used to live there. If you really want to see where that horror can lead, go to China. Not necessarily North Korea. Go to China and you will see what happens when there's an information bubble complete, trying to make sure that everybody thinks the same. The results are positively monstrous, and with what's going on in Shanghai, it's going to get more so.
Yeah, unfortunately, I actually have to agree with you on that. And I say unfortunately because, you know, what we're talking about here is very negative in terms of human lives.
Of course.
But it's the fact. It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, April, for that super chat. Appreciate that. Listen, David, I'm going to let you go because we've been talking for a while and I have a couple points to make.
Yes.
And I want to do them while they're still fresh in my mind. But I really appreciate this call. This is great. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Great to talk again.
Yeah, absolutely, man. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right. Cool deal. Yeah, that was a good call. Somebody who just asked a question, Gurur asked a question I wanted to answer real fast before I forget. Gurur says, now that you have your master's, would you speak in court if approached as an authority on the subject of cults? Okay, well, I will have my master's in a month, is the point I was making earlier, right? I don't have it quite yet, but as soon as the board meets and I get that, yes, I'd be more than happy to do expert testimony. I know that there's a learning curve there, and it's not as easy as you think. It's not just walking into the courtroom. There's prep, there's work, there's this, there's that, there's the other thing. There's a lot to it. I really only know a little tiny bit. But I would definitely be interested in doing something like that. If in cases where I thought that I might make a difference, it wouldn't be, oh yeah, I'll just talk to anybody for anything. If I thought that what I could bring to the table would be of material help to the case, and I believed in the case, then I'd be happy to be part of that. Okay. Oh, thank you, April. So cool. All right, so let me cut back to something on this cults and choices thing, because where this came out of was the podcast I was doing today. Mm-hmm. I interviewed a law professor, Phil Lord, and you'll see the podcast drop tomorrow. It's a 2-hour talk. We covered a lot of territory, got into more of the thickets in the legal arena. And, I'm talking to a law professor. I'm talking to somebody who really knows what they're talking about. Like when I talk to Cyprian, he's a, DC federal lawyer. He knows what he's talking about. And these are and you get this view of the law as it is actually practiced and the actual theory of it and the actual how it works. And you realize that, it's not about your individual case and the injustice that has happened to you. It really is a system that is designed to process everybody equally. And because of that, there are certain principles in place which include, unfortunately, an acknowledged, acceptable rate or fact that people are going to be able to commit crimes and get away with it in order for this system to work the way that it does, so that we don't put a whole bunch of innocent people in jail. Mm-hmm. In order for us to prevent the wholesale injustice that can occur amongst people when they get together and start getting crazy, and we see this throughout history, right? Through the aristocracy of the Middle Ages and the late ages, in Europe. We've seen this in civilizations in Africa and South America and Asia. Everywhere you go, you get groups of people together, they start acting a bit nuts. They do crazy things to each other. And it's the law and it's these systems that we put in place that allow us to live a civil, normal life where I get to live in a house and with my wife, and I don't have guns here or anything like that, but I get to have a reasonable expectation of safety. Because
if someone does come to your house and take your crap, they can get in trouble if they get caught.
Exactly, because that system is in place,
Yeah.
right? Because we've all agreed and we pay for it and all of that. But it doesn't mean that your individual case is going to get the justice it deserves. It just doesn't mean that. And that's very frustrating. That's not something I particularly am in the mood to accept or that I think is okay. I don't think it's okay that somebody commit crimes and get away with it. I don't. And I don't think it's okay that Scientology runs rampant over our court system and that kind of thing and gets away with it. I just don't think that's right. I don't think it's an acceptable collateral damage, that this kind of thing happened to people, but I see the point. And it's not like I've got some better idea, because right now I don't. I mean, what the founding fathers put together and what we've evolved over this time with our legal system and our justice system and all of that is, it's not perfect. It's not great. It's not even wonderful, but it does work and it does do what it's supposed to do as long as you understand what it's supposed to do. Anyway, this is not a big thing on the legal system. It's just some thoughts I was having today, because talking to this law professor, it was kind of like, yeah, there's things we just are not going to be able to do when it comes to prosecuting cults and bringing them to justice. There's just stuff that's just not going to happen. And there are things we can eventually make happen. And we can keep pushing to make them happen. And we can keep trying to get the case law to go. But we are fighting an uphill battle. And it is hard. It's hard for a lot of different reasons. The law and the system of the law is only one of those reasons. Money is another one. It's a pay-to-play system, etc. Influence is a thing. Having better lawyers. The way cases are brought against Scientology is usually by lawyers who are operating on contingency, do not do the research. It's not a passion project for them. They don't understand what they're taking on. And they use boilerplate tactics that usually don't end up succeeding. So where am I going with all this? How does this have to do with cults and choices? Well, what I realized is that, fighting that fight is not where victory lies for defeating cults or for having a better life or for helping people out. Those fights need to be fought. Lawyers need to keep doing what they're doing. I'm not saying to give up. This is not a preach defeatism. It is a recognition that for us individuals, that's, trying to get the spilled milk back in the bottle isn't really the place where we should be focusing all of our attention. It's how do we prevent ourselves from spilling that milk in the first place? How do we prevent ourselves from making the dumbass choice to join a cult? Right? Now, it's better and better and better and better now than it ever has been in terms of the information that is available to people. We have never been in a better time. I marvel at how easy it is to get things, to find out things.
Yeah, it's just...
You can just pick up your phone. I mean, we grew up, remember, you guys know, right? You had to go down to the goddamn library if you wanted to know something. You had to look up an encyclopedia if you had a set in your house,
and go through the little...
Dewey Decimal System,
and little cards, instead of...
Yeah.
And the microfiche. And,
that's right. Then there was microfiche, and then there was digitized records and databases and stuff. But what we have now is a goddamn miracle compared to what we grew up with in terms of information retrieval. And these new generations of people are benefiting from that, right? And they're faster and they're more facile with information and understanding things. And I am very hopeful about those things. I really, really, really am. And I need to be, because I can concentrate on all the negatives of the internet and the manipulation that occurs on the internet. And we've definitely talked about that. But there is this other positive side that is really positive, really good. And we really need to emphasize not just information access, but the discipline, this critical thinking thing, this discipline thing of slow your roll, man. Like, if it's too good to be true, it is.
Yep.
Like 100% of the time, because what this information, revolution has brought about, of course, is a whole new medium through which opportunists and predators can do their work. And they do. And we see this with online trolls and predators and scammers and hackers and all that other crap. So there is all that negativity there that we have to be aware of. But I think what I'm trying to say is that the choices that you have at the beginning are the most crucial ones. When you get involved in a group, any group, anybody, I don't care which group it is. I don't care if it's a fully above the boards group. Take the time to find out what you're doing. You know, it sounds so stupid, so simple, so easy. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. But it is the fact of what every single predator and every single cult take advantage of is your ability to not demand to be informed. You know, there's this thing called informed consent. You don't give over that you're going to let somebody do things to you without them first informing you what they're doing and why and what it's all about. This is a thing in medicine, right? Mm-hmm. They're supposed to tell you all about the stuff they do, right?
Yes.
Right.
Supposedly.
Supposed to. But if you don't demand it...
Yeah. They may not tell you.
They may not tell you, right? But in a cult, they will never tell you. And you have to be the one. I mean, this really comes back down, I guess, to let the buyer beware. I forgot the Latin thing, caveat emptor or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, let the buyer beware. You're the buyer, man. And in the courts, the reason this hit me so hard today was because in the courts, they assume that you were a responsible person before you signed the stupid contract. You read it. You understood it. You understood the consequences of it. The law has to assume that's true. They can't assume that you signed a contract and you didn't know what you were doing.
Well, that's the thing is, if you didn't know what you're doing, that is actually technically illegal for them to make you sign it. Because if they tried to make you not read it, if you were under the influence of drugs or alcohol, there's like different things that the courts are supposed to get people in trouble for if people sign contracts that are under BS circumstances. But as I've learned from Scientology, it doesn't happen that often.
No, it doesn't. And you walking into a place of your own accord, taking a personality test, being told this is what we can do for you, and then signing a contract, there's no pressure there.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
you have no case to make.
Yeah.
That now there was pressure there.
Yeah.
But you don't have a case to make in any American court of law that you were unduly influenced there. That case will not fly. And this is why we get these religious arbitrations and this contract law is being entered into courts. You know, it's very unusual that this is happening in a religious context, but in this case it is. And in Scientology's case, they're getting away with it because contract law has the weakness of assuming that when your name is on something, you
knew
actually
what you were doing.
did the job of reading it.
Yeah.
So my point is, if you didn't, I'm sorry, but that is kind of on you.
I think too, I don't know about Scientology's contracts, but I think about like terms and conditions that are, I mean, they're purposely hard to read, tiny font, legalese, because they don't want you to read it. And it's so disgusting. And that shouldn't be allowed either. Contracts should have to be easy to read and easy to understand.
They should be, but they're not. And they're not
light.
going to be, right? And so, and there's no requirement anywhere that they be so.
I know, but there should be.
Yes, they should. But they don't have to.
Regular human beings should not need a lawyer to understand their contract.
No, they shouldn't. But they do. And this is the thing, is there is this great big gap between what should be and what is. And if we don't bridge that gap, and I guess where I'm trying to go with all of this, guys, as I'm sure you know, is be fucking careful. Don't sign a goddamn thing if you don't know what you're signing, because these women who Masterson raped, 20 years of getting away with it. Because they didn't read the fine print. I mean, it's not, again, I am not blaming them. It's not their fault that they were victimized in any way. They did not deserve what happened to them. It should not have happened to them in any way. None of it. But 20 years of legal wrangling and nonsense was enabled by the fact that they signed contracts they didn't read and understand. And that's a fact that it brought all of this entanglement and injustice and problems to the situation, right? I didn't read the contracts. I didn't read them on purpose. I trust these guys. I trust you. I trust this organization. You're never going to turn on me. Right up until the moment that they do. You're absolutely positive they would never, ever, ever turn on you. These are your best buds. These are your spiritual brothers and sisters. These are the people you're willing to lay down your life for. These people. You're going to spend your next billion years with them. They're not going to turn on you ever. Until they do. You know, and if you're not prepared, if you don't understand, you know, the steps you've taken, then you've put yourself into an extremely vulnerable place. And it was unnecessary that it happened. It didn't have to happen that way. And I'm just trying to prevent that from happening in the future by saying, take the time to read what you're signing. Look at the choices you're making. Evaluate them carefully. Pause to think. It will do wonders. It will do wonders. If you had a personal policy of not making any important or heavy or costly financial decision or life decision without giving yourself, I would say 48, but even 24 hours, you're going to save yourself more misery than you could possibly imagine. Because we never imagine the nonsense we're going to get into. We never imagine it. I mean, I never imagined for a second my life would go in the direction it went.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah.
You know, and this applies to relationships too. I mean, you have abusive relationships. You didn't imagine it was going to go there. You didn't think that's what was going to happen.
Wanted. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm saying you don't imagine it, you know, because you can't. But if you take the time to think through these things, anyway, you get what I'm saying. Yes, Pale Blue Mama. Hey, Pale Blue Mama. Nice to see you here. Yes, they should. And I believe that there are certainly precedent for canceling NDAs when they are being used to cover up crimes. I believe that is not permissible. Criminal law is pretty strict, and once crimes once somebody's being indicted or crimes are being thrown up there, then shit gets real fast in the court system. The criminal law is very, very different from civil law that way. Hey, Amanda. All right. Yes, exactly. And then this business with children signing contracts, that is off the rails.
This should never be allowed.
Off the rails. And it's very interesting how Scientology has kind of uniquely, I'm told, because I don't have a lot of experience with lots of these other groups. We know the Moonies, the Mormons, the JWs, they're not using contract law the way Scientology is. But I wonder how many other cults are watching what Scientology is doing and going,
getting ideas.
Yeah. Right? So, yeah.
Well, that's what they do. They learn from each other. So
yes, they do. So anyway, you know, taking these guys on legally after the fact is look, I really am not trying to be defeatist here, right? But I'm trying to be real. It's a bit of a fool's errand. I mean, you really, really, really have to be prepared. Far easier, far better for all of us if we just didn't spill the milk in the first place, you know? And these are the kinds of choices. I guess what I'm trying to stress here is these are the kind of choices that you do have full control over. You're the one doing it. In the early stages of this stuff, you know, they're lying to you, they're unduly influencing you, they're pressuring you, they're love bombing you. Well, all the information on all of those tactics is all over my channel, is all over the internet now. So we really don't have the excuse anymore of I didn't know. If only somebody had told me. So wanted to throw that out there just as an idea for people to ponder. All right, guys. And from the comments and stuff I'm seeing here, nobody's taken this the wrong way, which I am very, very happy about. So thanks for all of that. Do we have anything else we wanted to do before we wrap up our end of show stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. We're going to do our critical thinking cards as always. And of course, we are full on repeating them now because we've definitely gone through these cards probably at least twice. But this is a tradition worth keeping. This is my deck of logical fallacies and cognitive biases. And this week,
the fallacy. Presuming that because a claim has been poorly argued or a fallacy has been made, that it is necessarily wrong. Recognizing that Amanda had committed a fallacy in arguing that we should eat healthy food because the nutritionist said it was popular, Elise said we should therefore eat bacon double cheeseburgers every day.
Elise is nailing it. Elise is absolutely nailing it on that one. But yes, I think I get the point. All right, guys, watch out for those fallacies.
Yeah.
Especially on Twitter.
Fallacy. I like that.
Yes, exactly. Hey, listen, just a quick request out there. Anybody, you got any ideas on branding, identifications, ideas for my channel, things I'm contemplating within this next month? I'm going to be reworking, graphics and design and all that crap on my channel. And I'm still pondering how I want to do that and what I want to throw out there. Coercive control is a great expression, but it's basically dominated by or used exclusively in the domestic violence field. So I'm not sure if that's a term I should be, trying to utilize in what my channel is about, because I don't want people to think it's only about domestic violence. It is definitely not. So anyway, just throwing it out there. If you all got any ideas, email me. Let me know what you think I might best. How do I put my best foot forward in presenting my work? All right, guys. Yeah, hey, hon, I will not be renaming my channel Master Chris Shelton. You guys are awesome. All right, guys. Thanks so much for your support and your viewership. Watch for the podcast tomorrow and a regular Q&A show as usual. All right, guys. See ya.
Night.